This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out everything related to Batman and the entire Bat family at the BatmanUniverse.net, including news and original content related to comics, movies, television, merchandise, video games, and more. Also, check out some of the other unique podcasts that TBU has to offer. Consider supporting this podcast by becoming a patron on Patreon. Even $1 can go a long way in supporting this content that you enjoy. Look for a link over at the BatmanUniverse.net to offer your support now. And now, on with the show.
Hi, my name is Peter Tomasi.
Hi, this is James Tynan IV.
Hi, I'm Dan Jurgens.
Hey, I'm Dustin Wynn.
This is Jim Lehan.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder.
This is Mark Hamill speaking.
This is Kevin Conroy.
This is Tim Sale.
Hello, everyone. I'm Batman, and you're listening to my podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Batman Universe Comic Podcast, Season 13, Episode 8. I am Ian, and with me I have my fellow co-hosts.
This is Steph.
This is Jessica.
And that is our demonic podcast possession. Actually, it was Theo. We are going to be covering some very exciting titles today. The first issue of Robin by Josh Williamson and Gleb Melnikov, and the next issue of Detective Comics by Maruko Tamaki and Dan Mora, with the exciting Huntress backup, also written by Tamaki, art by Clayton Henry. But before that, we have solicitations for July 2021, which dropped at, I am not kidding, they dropped at 2 o'clock in the morning for me. And I was still up because I am a stupid person. This was Friday night, so I didn't have to be awake for... Actually, I should have been awake on Saturday, but I wasn't. And we had a bunch of Batman news, even though they're actually focusing a lot on Superman for July. There's a lot of cool Superman stuff if you're interested in that. First big thing for July will be the Black Label title Suicide Squad Get Joker, written by Brian Azzarello, drawn by Alex Maleev. And interestingly, Alex Maleev usually colors himself, but Matt Hollingsworth, who does the White Knight colors, is going to be doing colors for this. It features Jason Todd, the Red Hood, and Harley Quinn as part of Suicide Squad. Since it's Black Label, it's probably going to be out of continuity, as usual. I have to admit, I'm not very excited about this. I did not like Batman Damned, and I did not like Azzarello's Birds of Prey. Both of those were Black Label, so I kind of expect it to be more of the same. I do think it'll have great art, because both Damned and the Birds of Prey had amazing art, and Alex Maleev is great. But the story, I'm just not interested in. What do you guys think?
I don't know. Ew. Whatever. I have no opinion.
I'm not interested in this either. For some reason, I have been really turned off by Azzarello as of late. I don't know if I'm starting to put him in the same level that Grant Morrison is in now. You know, some of the stuff that he's putting out as of late just seems off and not of real interest to me. I'm like Ian. Batman Damned was what it was. I don't.
Every time it comes up, I'm so tempted to make all the jokes.
Yeah, I'll be passing on it. I mean, Suicide Squad. I don't follow it anyway. It's Joker, you know, and everybody knows how I feel about Joker, and everybody knows how the rest of the cast feels about Joker. So,
well, and also the fact that it's Harley, that's also one that's a turnoff for you. So,
and Strike 3.
Next is one that I'm hoping that most of us are excited about, Batman Catwoman Special. So we have a skip month this month, unfortunately, for Batman Catwoman. It is scheduled to come out in May and I think June. I think they've pushed it back to June. And then July, they're going to have this special, which is going to be oversized. It's written by Tom King, again, but it's drawn by Jean-Paul Leon. And it's got a Jean-Paul Leon cover, a Bill Sienkiewicz cover, and a Lee Weeks cover, which is the one I'm planning to buy, because it's Catwoman climbing up on a heist, and in the background it's a museum, and it's just classic Lee Weeks gorgeousness. The solicitation says that it's about a young Bruce and a young Selina and how their lives intersected before they were Batman and Catwoman. And I think that would be kind of interesting. Maybe a little bit too much like Lost or other, classic TV show type coincidence meetings when they were kids. Or the TV show Gotham, of course, had that happening too. But I mean, I'm here for it. I'm really enjoying Batman Catwoman, and Jean-Paul Leon's art is really good. What do you think, my fellow co-hosts?
Oh no! Anything Batcat, I'll eat. It's all good. I mean that's not true at all. I've read some craptastic Batcat, but I'm excited. I don't. As far as like relationship building, Tom King has not disappointed me.
Yeah, I'm in for this as well. Again, still somewhat confused with regards to how Batcat is going, but I mean, at least I know with this special, it won't be, or at least it shouldn't be, jumping back and forth in time. So I should be okay getting through this one.
We had really interesting announcements about the Batman Secret Files project, whereas the first, I think it's 3, or are we at 4 Secret Files now? Was the last one the Joker War one with Mr. Teeth?
Yeah, that was it. Don't remind us that.
But we haven't had one since then, have we?
Nope.
Okay.
No, not since that one. I don't think so.
So I'm still very. I still want to go on record. I'm still very salty that none of the Joker, none of the Batman Secret Files have pinups or profiles with vital details or maps. That is what a Secret File should have. However, they're changing the direction of the Secret Files line, and it's going to be character one-shots, basically. And we're going to have 2. One is the Signal, Batman Secret Files Signal, and these are going to be like an annual, basically. They're oversized, so 30 to 38 pages, high-quality art, top writers, and so Signal, it's Tony Patrick, who did the miniseries Batman and the Signal, and he also did the Signal backup story in Robin King during Death Metal, so he obviously has a connection to Duke Thomas. Unfortunately, they're not getting Cully Hamner to do the art, because he did the art for the miniseries with Tony Patrick, but he is doing one of the covers, and it does look very cool, as Ken Lashley's doing the main cover. It also looks very cool. It doesn't seem to be connected to anything, though, which is interesting, because the next Secret Files, which is also launching in July, is Huntress, which I, of course, am super excited about, because I love the Huntress. This list is weird. It says that Huntress has a superpower now, but it seems like it will probably be temporary, so I'm not too worried about that. It looks really exciting. It's by Maruko Tamaki, and it directly ties into the Detective Comics stuff that she's doing with Huntress, so that's really cool. Kind of surprised they're going Secret Files instead of the annual route, but if they think it'll sell better, I'm all for getting Huntress some more visibility. We have some bad news, in my opinion. Detective Comics, Justice League, and Wonder Woman are double shipping, which DC said they weren't going to be doing, but they apparently are. The Joker is getting for issue 5, the Joker is getting a flashback story to the first time Jim Gordon faced the Joker. It has new artist Francesco Francavilla, who is most famous for doing Batman Year One. So that's actually a really cool choice for artist. This is a one-shot, so it's not going to be the continuing thing. It's not going to keep flashing back, and it's not going to have Matthew Rosenberg as co-writer for the rest of the series. So I don't know why they're doing that. They're also changing the backup artist from Mirka Andolfo to Sweeney Boo. Sweeney Boo's actually getting some cool news that we'll cover at the end of this segment. But I really like what I've seen of her art on Twitter, so I think that's cool. Batman, the next Batman, Second Son, is coming to its finale, and the cover spoils that we're going to get Katana as a guest character, and John Ridley has shown a lot of interest in Katana. He put her in his alternate universe version of the DC universe, other history of the DC universe. So clearly he's been thinking about her and writing in her head a lot. So I think it's really cool that she's coming to that. That series continues to be really exciting. Definitely still recommend it. And then the Truth and Justice digital first miniseries is getting an issue starring Damian Wayne, Robin, which is very interesting since he's also got his solo title. And the artist, Junie Ba, says that Cassandra Cain and Stephanie Brown will be in at least one scene. So it's probably not going to be very big, but I know that Theo and I will be happy to see that. And
what is Truth and Justice?
Truth and Justice is an anthology series where they're sticking a bunch of like lesser known characters. So they started off with Vixen, and then they did like a Superman story. So they're like alternating lesser known characters and more known characters. They did a Red Hood story recently. I think they've had 4 stories so far, and I can't remember what the 3rd story was. But Robin's going to get one come in July, so that'll be exciting. There's also an artist, at least a fill-in artist for Robin coming up. So Gleb Melnikov is stepping off for at least one issue, hopefully not too many. He's still on covers, but Jorge Corona is doing Robin number 4 in July. I really like Jorge Corona. He did We Are Robin back in the DCU era. He recently did an issue of Let Them Live of Nightwing on DC Universe Infinite exclusive digital comic. He's got a lot of energy, so I think that'll be a really good match with the energy of Gleb Melnikov on Robin. It's a little disappointing that they're doing a filler artist on issue 4, but if they're going to do filler artists, this is a really good artist. And that brings us to the most exciting news for a lot of us, I would say, is Urban Legends number 5 features a continuation of the Tim Drake Robin story from number 4. And also, it's not clear if this is a one-shot story or if it's going to be a continuing story, but it's Batgirls, written by Marguerite Bennett, illustrated by Sweeney Boo, which is the artist I was mentioning earlier doing the Punchline backups. And there's going to be a variant cover featuring Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain with their Batgirl logos by artist Mimi Yoon. And Theo, why don't you give us a little enthusiasm there?
No, I love that variant cover. I'll be getting a few copies of that one. It's my new wallpaper.
I have to admit that the wallpaper is very voluptuous. Steph, in particular, is sticking out her sit me down upon, and her chest is thrust out a little bit. So it's definitely, I believe that Mimi Yoon is known for very appealing art of female characters, and so that's definitely been a topic of conversation on Twitter. But I am very, very pleased. And I knew this was coming because Sweeney Boo posted pictures of her drawing Steph and Cass on Twitter, and she said it was for Urban Legends, and I was pretty sure it was coming in, the July solicits, because there's no reason why they'd let her tell people they were working on that unless it was coming soon. So I am very excited to see that. We'll see how it turns out. I am very relieved it's not Ayala after Future State Batgirls, and also, of course, very relieved that it's not Castellucci. So we'll see what Marguerite Bennett has to do with Stephen Cass.
It could only be better. It can't get much worse than what we got in Future State. That was
very disappointing.
Yeah, very, very disappointing. Yeah, of everything coming out in July, that's the book I'm most excited about, and it's not just because of the Batgirls issue, but I mean, since it's been out, Urban Legends has been a hell of a book, and I think it's been well worth its cost. So you won't get any complaints about me, and this is the first time we've seen Marguerite Bennett since Batwoman, is it?
I mean, she's been on Justice League Ruby, and
that just came out.
Yeah, I thought she was on something else, but it's mostly been in stuff that I haven't been reading, so I don't know for sure. She's contributed stories to like the Wonder Woman 750 and stuff like that.
Now, I will tell you what I am disappointed in. I'm actually not excited about the Signal series. I was not, of course, everybody knows Duke and I are not on the best terms, but I was really, really hoping they would have given this to Brandon Thomas. Considering the great job he's done.
Yeah.
Not only Outsiders and Future State, but also the backup stories we've been getting in.
Yeah, the Outsiders in Urban Legends has been really good.
Really good. I mean, he just seems to have a good voice for that team, and he actually gave Duke Thomas a voice that I can go along with, and I'm really disappointed now.
Because, I try to be, biased on authors, especially since I don't really remember them most of the time. But Batman and the Signal was not good. Like, it wasn't a train wreck, but it was in no way interesting or memorable.
It was way overstuffed. Like, I love Cully Hamner's art, but, like, he was tasked to... The really frustrating thing is it was part of that New Age of Heroes thing, and all of those got at least 6 issues, and I don't understand why they gave it 3 issues. It clearly had too many ideas and characters to be 3 issues. So I think that's why it's so unmemorable, because it didn't develop any of its ideas very well.
No one seems to know what to do with Duke. No,
well, that's not true. They know what to do in alternate universes, in White Knight and in Future State, but not in the present day.
Not in the present day.
I mean, I had high hopes for Brian Hill, and that kind of went flopped. But and again, everyone who knows me, knows I'm not a fan of Duke, but I absolutely loved the voice he had in Future State. That was a great 2-part run.
Oh. It was real good. It was real good, guys. I don't even know. I think it's going to be collected in the next Batman hardcover or trade paperback. But definitely get that from the library, if nothing else. It's really a good backup story. Okay, that brings us up to date with our news. I want to get started on reviews. And the first one is Robin #1. Written by Joshua Williamson, art and cover by Gleb Melnikov. Batman thinks about his son Damian's history, from Batman and Son by Grant Morrison until now, as the Bat family, Dick, Tim, Steph, Cass, and Babs, hunt for him without success. Meanwhile, Damian, wearing a black, gray, and red Robin costume, faces the blind but deadly King Snake in a cage fight, beating him without killing, despite his taunting and the fight manager's money. Later, as Damian reads his manga, he envisions Alfred asking him if he knows who he is. But Damian dismisses the memory as a mysterious hooded figure gives him the token, which gets him into the League of Lazarus tournament, to discover why Talia hid it from him. He gives a huge roll of money to his fellow street dwellers, then heads on a ship to the tournament along with other fighters. On Island Lazarus, he meets Rose Wilson, Ravager, who asks if Batman knows where he is, along with new villain Respawn, dressed in a Deathstroke copycat costume. Connor Hawke watches Damian as Mother Soul announces the start of the once-a-century fight. Damian interrupts and demands to fight, despite Rose's attempts to tell him of other plans afoot, and another new villain, Flatline, steps up to challenge Damian. After a brutal fight, she appears to rip Damian's heart out from his chest. All right. Question 1. How does it feel to have Damian in a Robin comic again?
Oh, I'm excited. It's a little sad there's no real chance of John coming, although he did get a little honorable mention at the very beginning in picture form. But I'm excited. I'm surprised to see so much of the Bat family involved in this book. I don't know if they're just fan service for the first issue or if they'll continue to be a part of it, which would be kind of cool. But I'm interested. Damian's being a little jerk. I don't know why he's aggravating people from the beginning. Like, I don't know. It's like that. Why are you wanting to fight now? But whatever. Yeah, I'm hooked and I'm interested.
Yeah, despite the fact that he's not calling himself Robin, he doesn't want the mantle. It is always good to see my boy Damien in a solo book at that. Yeah, it was a little bit of a shock to see the family involved in the first issue. Not sure if that's going to be an ongoing thing, but you can never get too much Batman in the Batman universe. So definitely on board, definitely excited to see where we're going.
I thought this was a really fun opening. Williamson clearly has a passion for the Bat family and Damian and this world he's creating with League of Lazarus. I don't get the sense that it's necessarily going to be the deepest run, but I think it will be fun, and I think it will be worthwhile for Damian fans, and I am a Damian fan, so I am very interested to see where he goes with this. And I'm very pleased that we have a Robin title again. I think that Robin is so important to the Bat family, and Batman as a property. I think without Robin, Batman's just kind of alone in a dead end. But with Robin, he has a future because he passes his knowledge and his passion for justice and for saving people to the next generation, and he inspires people. And it's a self-insert for the readers in a good way. It's not like a self-insert for the readers in like, oh, everyone will love me, but it's a self-insert for the readers in terms of the readers are also inspired by Batman to try and be better people, to better themselves, to learn how to be a detective and find the truth. So I just love the fact that Robin is getting a spotlight again, and I hope it's good. I hope that we see the kinds of things that we didn't necessarily see from the Teen Titans title, at least with regards to Damian. I think that there were some good things about those Teen Titans runs, but it was too drawn out for the effect that it was trying to accomplish with Damian.
Oh, it went all downhill after Glass took over. But I am happy you enjoyed this first issue because you really enjoyed the backup stories. I don't think either one of you did.
I thought that they were just too long.
No, that wasn't my problem. I just thought nothing too exciting happened, and I didn't know how much juice they were adding. Meat they were adding to the series, because I hadn't read the series yet.
Well, this definitely felt a lot meatier, which I was pleased with. What do you think Damian's arc will be here?
Zombie Damian, obviously, he's dead now. I have no idea. Hopefully he learns something and has some character development, because that's what I hope. I like the main character of the story to go on a journey and be a different person. And as much as I love Damian, he is so much Brat. And I feel like he could, now that he's surrounded by all these experts, I feel like he could be well served with some humble pie and maybe change a little bit, especially since Batman's sort of description of Damian at the beginning, they did spend a lot of time emphasizing his confidence in himself. Like, he never had there was never any question that he would be the next Batman in his mind. Like, if you can spell confidence, it's Damian, or however you spell Damian. I don't spell. So I'd be interested to see if he does have a humility trip in this story. And I think having your heart literally ripped out is a good way to start that humility trip.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where this arc is going, considering Damian has got his heart ripped out. But I am I am going to respectfully disagree with my fellow co-host Steph in saying that I need Damian to stay bratty. I mean, it's okay to have a little humble pie served every once in a while, but bratty Damian is what made him my favorite Robin, especially after he returned from the dead. I'm okay with bratty Damian. I need Damian to stay bratty. Now, of course, once he takes up the mantle somewhere down the line, if DC ever decides to age him up, which they won't, that can change. But no, give me Bradley Damian. That's what makes him the lovable character for me.
He did age up. He's 14 now instead of 13. Because didn't he have his 13th birthday when Rebirth started? And now they said he was 14.
I am curious because the Truth and Justice issue says it's another birthday party for Damian, and this time there's a lot of people invited. So maybe he will be 14, in which case he's 2 years younger than Tim now.
He's already 14, I think.
In this book, yeah, they mentioned that that's his age.
Well, maybe Truth and Justice will be the prequel to this then.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Before he had his heart ripped out.
I am very curious to see what's going on with Flatline. I'm a little amused that both Nightwing and Robin have a villain who punches holes in chests and steals hearts in the same week. Or maybe it was last week for Nightwing, but...
That was weird. Yeah.
It just felt like this is the same thing. And it ends on the same thing, too, with the villain holding a heart and the victim with a hole in their chest.
Well, it's a dramatic way to end. I mean, how would you end it if you ripped someone's heart out?
Yeah, if I were an editor, though, I would say maybe one of you needs to get a different villain gimmick. Way to go, Bat editors. Which is actually a little unfair. I actually have been very impressed with the way the Bat editorial line has been going in general, especially compared to last year. But this is a little egregious. In terms of my arc, I don't know. I don't think we're going for Zombie Damian. Although, well, here's a thought. This is the League of Lazarus. Maybe their whole thing is Lazarus pits. I could see that.
Like you can only die 3 times, and the third time you die, they're not putting you in the pit.
That would make a lot of sense. I could see that.
Or maybe Flatline has the ability to put the heart back. Who knows?
That also could work, yeah. What characters that we see here are you especially excited to see more of besides Damian, of course? The new ones like Flatline or Respawn? Or the old ones like Ravager or King Snake or something.
I'm curious to see why Ravager is there and what her version of the character is in this book. But she does seem genuinely concerned about Damian. Like she goes out of her way to like try to warn him and calm him down, where everyone else is just kind of watching, wanting to see the bratty 14-year-old kick it. I'm not that interested in, I don't know, whatever his name was, Hawk. I don't know. At this point, I don't care.
You're not excited about Green Arrow's son?
Not particularly.
Oh man, Theo, you gotta back me up here.
Well, from what I've seen, like the backup didn't make me excited. If he doesn't have Ollie's personality, I don't know. He didn't seem to fight with Arrow. I don't know.
I will completely agree that based only on what we've seen here, there's not a lot to get excited about. But if you like Connor from previous stuff, I think we're very excited to see him.
Okay.
At least I am. Yeah. Obviously, if you haven't read those things, why should you be?
I'm not excited yet. But, and I'm interested to see what Flatline's going to do with Damian's heart. But, and she actually, she kind of reminds me of, who's that Superman villain that can, Livewire. She kind of reminds me of Livewire. I don't know. Maybe Line, Wire. They're both pasty skinned. I don't know. There's not much there. But, I'm very interested in a couple of them.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, Ian, but I am not caring about either of them. I am ready for Maya to come back. When Maya comes back and she and Damian are able to reconnect, I'll be a happier person.
I have to agree with you there. I am much more excited about Maya coming back than anyone else in the comic. Maya is great. And I think she'd really fit because, she fits in that world of assassins and mercenaries that League of Lazarus seems to have attracted. Of the people we see here, I'm probably most excited about Connor Hawke. But again, because of his history, not because of what we've seen so far. We haven't seen enough of him for us to really know. But it is really cool. And I have a theory that once Bendis finishes up the Checkmate event, he's going to launch a Green Arrow series, because he seems to be really focusing on Green Arrow and Black Canary. And I could see that being trying to lead into another solo series, because it's been too long since we've had a Green Arrow series and a Black Canary series. But it looks like we're getting, a focus on the Green Arrow family coming back. We're getting Mia, Speedy coming back. We're getting Connor Hawk coming back. So add Emiko, Ollie, and Black Canary, and I think you have the beginnings of a great book. Last question. How do you feel about Cassandra Cain, Bronze Tiger, Richard Dragon, and Lady Shiva not being part of this League of Lazarus tournament?
I don't care. I'm interested in the story that they want to tell and who they choose to do that with. And I don't know. I have no expectations of who will be in this book, and I'm just going to let the book take me where it's going to take me.
Well, considering what it took to get into the tournament, I don't think those particular characters would have made it anyway. Particularly Cass, considering she's going the way of the bat. And I just don't think Shiva cares. She probably feels it's beneath her. Yeah, I'm okay with those guys not being invited. It allows us to be introduced to some newer characters, a la Flatline, or to see some previous characters that we may not have seen in a while, aka or a la Ravenger, even though we saw her in Future State, or again the pending return of Maya.
A lot of Cassandra Cain fans on Twitter were very upset about this, but honestly, the way that Williamson sets this up, this doesn't seem like the kind of tournament that Cass would enjoy or find meaningful at all. It's a bunch of mercenaries. There's clearly plots going on. It seems kind of seamy and underhanded, and Damien's in a dark place right now, so that kind of fits with where he is. Cass isn't in that place, and I don't think it fits with her character. She's interested in saving people, not really improving herself. Not that Damien doesn't like saving people, but he's a much more torn character when it comes to his reasons for being a hero, I think. So I'm not bothered by it. I think that I'm hopeful that, because there's a lot of comments about how certain people like Richard Dragon were beaten to get there, but of course we see King Snake beaten and he's not dead. So there very well could be lots of characters who are mentioned who aren't dead. So as long as, Richard Dragon and Bronze Tiger aren't dead, I don't mind them not being here. It would be cool, of course, to see them, but there's only so many characters you can stuff in a book. Right, so let's give our ratings for Robin. Oh, I do want to take a quick comment and say I thought Gleb Melnikov's art was really good here. He has a very sort of a Greg Capullo style to him, but he's also his own artist, so he doesn't feel like a copy. He's just got sort of similar facial features, and it's really good looking.
Do you think that Damien's apparently newfound love of shoujo manga is going to play a part in the story?
I certainly hope so. They had a whole half page of black and white manga art.
Yes. And he's just, I don't know, maybe that's his connection to Alfred or something. I don't know, but because he was reading it while he was talking to Alfred. Well, in his head, but I don't know. I was delighted by shoujo fan Damien.
It was indeed very delightful. Any comments about the art, Theo?
Oh, I love the art. He did his own colors too, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, it was great. Can't wait to see more of it.
Indeed. All right. So out of 5 League of Lazarus tokens, what would you give Robin number 1?
I want to give it a 4, but is that too high? I don't know. I'm excited about this.
Vote with your heart, Steph.
I know It's total bias. I acknowledge it's total bias, but I give this a 4 out of 5 Lazarus tokens.
I also give it a 4. It was really a great start to the issue, and even though we see, Damien get his heart ripped out, we know that that's not going to last, and of course he'll be back, and it just makes the story more interesting to see what happens next and how he comes back, so on and so forth. So yeah, it's a 4 for me.
I'm going to give it a 3.5. Very good start, above average. And that gives us an average score of 3.83, a median or mode of 4. So high scores on Robin number 1. I think we all would definitely recommend that you pick it up.
Whether you are a first-time TBU Comics podcast listener, a 13-year veteran, or anything in between, we'd love to hear what you think about this episode or any of the comics we discussed. Send emails to tbu@thebatmanuniverse.net. Join our Discord server linked at thebatmanuniverse.net. Send us a tweet at TBU_comics. Or, if you're a patron, leave us a comment on our Patreon page. We'd also love it if you left us a review on iTunes. We'd love to read your comments on the next episode of the Batman Universe Comics Podcast. Batman may claim he works alone, but we know that he needs the Bat Family. Join the TBU Bat Family and let us know what you think.
All right, let us move on to Detective Comics.
So before we get into the review of Detective, I just want to thank Daniel over on the site for doing the review for me in my absence, as I tended to my late brother's funeral services. So thanks for that, Daniel. Detective Comics, number 1035. Main story written by Mariko Tamaki, art by Dan Moore. As Batman and the police search for Sarah Wirt, kidnapped last issue, with the mayor also getting involved, Batman finds her body in the sewers. After Batman escapes the cops in a messy and violent chase through the tunnels, Bruce attends Sarah's funeral, where Mr. Wirt pledges vengeance for his daughter's murder. Batman tracks down Sarah's partner, Sam, telling him he knows what he lost. Nakano works with his staff and Simon Saint on the problems facing the city, but one of them, Neil, is acting extremely strangely. Hunter saves a girl from a mugger kidnapper while Batman drops off Sam next to the jail, seeing drugs in the system. Walking home, Bruce sees what seems to be a zombie of Sarah.
All right. Question 1. What do you think of Tamaki's narration for Bruce? Kind of one of her trademarks now after Future State.
Oh, I love it. I don't... Sometimes when there's a lot of internal monologue for Batman, I totally zone out. Like, total cross-eyed, skip. But I read every single word she writes. It is, I don't know if it's, because I mean, not every single word is, interesting, but her way of speaking keeps me engaged enough that I feel that all her words are worth reading. I enjoy it.
So as I say this, and I'm going to say it every time we talk about Mariko Tamaki and Batman, and I know I've said it every other time we've talked about Mariko Tamaki and Batman, I still cannot believe that this is the person that gave us the tea and how dreadful that story was. I love the voice she gives Bruce, not just Bruce, the other characters in the issues as well. I am quite interested in the behemoth man that is Mr. Wirt. This is the type of voice that I enjoyed when she wrote She-Hulk back at Marvel. keeps you engaged no matter how the book ends or how the issue ends. And it makes you ready for the next issue to come out. I absolutely love what she's doing right now.
I think it's really good. I think it's got a good tone, very noir. And it's a good contrast with James Tynion, who's writing much more zany, sort of anime style. So having a more noir detective feel for detective, which is very fitting, and then a zanier, action-y, science fiction-y type of horror book like James Tynion's writing with Batman. It's that different flavors that I like to see in the different Bat books. I mean, what's the point of 50 million Bat books if they all stay the same? We want different flavors, different sides of our protagonists, and I think we get that, and I like that. What do you think of this drugs zombie plot?
Yeah. I mean, it has to be something, right? I don't care, which is a weird thing to say, because I am so character driven in my enjoyment of stories. And this is true for TV shows, for comics, whatever. It's about the characters. So this could honestly be, Pride and Prejudice and zombies. As long as I like the characters, which I have not watched the movie or read the book of that, so I don't know. But I'm just enjoying the characters so much, and it's interesting enough that the fact that it's apparently zombies now is fine. Whatever. As long as it's enjoyable, it can be whatever she wants.
Yeah, again, I'm not certain on the whole zombie thing, but the way that Tamaki presented it at the end, again, makes me interested to see where it's going. You know, I'm not a zombie fan. I don't read or watch The Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead or any of that other stuff. And, you know, wasn't all that crazy about all of the zombified Jokers from Joker War. But it's going to be interesting to see where this is going, primarily because it wasn't expected. I didn't expect that final panel to be that, and yet there it is. Mm-hmm. So we'll see where it brings us.
Yeah, I don't really have a prediction either. I mean, clearly the staffing member who's working with the mayor and Simon Saint is having the same kind of drug effects that I'm sure is linked to Sarah's murder and then zombification, but I don't know who could be doing it, because Simon Saint seems to be more of the villain in Batman, because we know that Peacekeeper is going to be one of the main antagonists coming in July. And that, of course, is part of Simon Saint's Magistrate initiative. So it's possible, of course, that Simon Saint's the villain in both, but that feels a little, I don't know, that
different.
Doesn't quite work in my head, to have the same villain in both books.
Yeah. And again, with how Tamaki is writing, it really makes you think about it, because when you see how that first issue of the arc ended, you just knew that Neil's behind the murder, because he's walking through the sewers and he has blood all over him. And you're like, oh, hey, Neil's the bad guy. But now we see him in this issue and he's pretty much suffering as well. So now you really don't know.
It's a nice twisty mystery. That brings us to the end of this section. Let's move on to the Huntress backup.
All right. Our Huntress backup is Mary Knox, written by Mariko Tamaki, art by Clayton Henry. Huntress, feeling lonely, thinks of her sort of friend Mary Knox, who she saved from a mugger 3 months ago, and then rescues her dog, Doug. She tried to tell Mary to be more careful, but Mary ignored her, instead striking up an odd companionship of conversation. They had a falling out when Mary revealed why she goes out at night when it's not safe. And 3 weeks later, Huntress found her body and swears vengeance.
So how do you think this backup, with art by Clayton Henry, fits into the main story with Dan Mora on the art level? How do you think that meshes artistically?
I mean, it was fine. It's definitely different. It's brighter. The colors aren't quite as I don't know, muted's not really the right word, but there seems to be like a common color palette. I don't know, it sounds too sophisticated for what I know about art, but this one just seems to be a lot brighter and a lot cheerier in a way, even though it's totally not. But it's not off-putting or doesn't give you whiplash going from one story to another. And it's fine. It's a different character, so I think a different art style makes sense.
Yeah, from a pencil standpoint, the pencils definitely look similar, so it doesn't throw you off too much. But once you apply those colors, like Steph said, the colors are definitely a little bit more brighter with the backup story, and that's okay. Again, it's a different story, so it doesn't necessarily need to be along the same palette as the main story. So I'm okay with this. It was very nice, and again, like I said, pencil wise, it doesn't look that much different from Dan Mora, but it enough for you to know that you're reading a different story.
Yeah, I agree. I like it when there's a clear connection in terms of like a clean line or a very expressionist line or a thick line. And Clayton Henry and Dan Mora are clearly different artists, but they also have like a similar tradition that they're following. If, for example, Tim Sale or Riley Rossmo or even someone like Simone DeMeo had done the art for the backup, it would have felt really jarring. And it's interesting, the colors are different. They are brighter in the backup, but they're done by the same person, Jordi Belair, who did the main story. So that's a really cool artistic sort of feat. What do you think of how this backup story might connect to the main Detective Comics story and the Huntress one-shot, the Secret Files Huntress?
Well, so Huntress did show up in Tech just for a moment. I even forgot what she did. She hit somebody. And I don't know if the backup happens before or after, concurrently with her appearance in the actual Tech story. But I do like having two parallel stories before two people join together. I think it adds a depth to the story, especially if you not have to interrupt the main story to tell that story. That's just a convenience thing I appreciate. I think it adds a depth to the character, a richness to the storytelling that I really appreciate. And the story that's told is just, that was purely for ripping your heart out. That added an element to Huntress. She's showing a vulnerability, kind of explaining why she doesn't have friends, why she does what she does. It was as someone who doesn't know too much about Huntress, I really did appreciate this backup, and I like her character, and I understand a little bit about her her not wanting to be vulnerable. And I'm just interested to see. It makes me think that her involvement in Batman might be more of an emotional, or maybe an emotionally less appearance. And maybe, she makes friends with Batman or Ghostmaker or something. Where's Ghostmaker? Oh, Ghostmaker's not in Tech. Never mind. So maybe she won't be friends with Ghostmaker. But whatever.
Yeah, I don't know how this connects to the main story, but I really don't think it matter either. It was very good on its own. Like Steph said, this is one of those books where you may need a Kleenex, by the time you get to the end of it. I don't have an opinion of how it connects to the main story, other than, reintroducing the character, that you got a glimpse of in the main story. But yeah, this was very touching and very good. And again, just goes to show how Tamaki has this ability to just give a good voice to a character.
I am very excited about Huntress being back in comics. It's been about, I want to say about 3 or 4 years, about the same amount of time as Bluebird was gone, Harper Row. And so far, it looks like Tamaki has a good handle on her character. She doesn't make friends easily, but she does care deeply. And she's very driven by vengeance and justice. So I think I'm very excited. It definitely fits in that hard-boiled detective. There's a connection with Huntress stopping muggers in the main story, and then she stops a mugger in this story. So that's kind of her thing, as she's patrolling, trying to keep her neighborhood safe. I like to see that kind of detail consistency. There's a hint of a villain called Vile, or Mr. Vile, who has powers and maybe is the guy with a really creepy alien type of mouth on the cover of one of the Detective Comics. We'll have to see how that goes. But I'm really curious. I love it when the main writer of a book is also writing a backup that sort of fleshes out and introduces ideas that will become part of the main story later. And I think that's what's happening here with this Huntress story. But I don't know where it's going. I mean, this is just 8 pages, I think, maybe 10. And it's setting things up, gets you to care, and then makes you very sad. And so, all right. So for all of Detective Comics, main story and the backup, out of 5 Huntress crossbow bolts, what do you give Detective Comics 1035?
I don't know why this question takes me off guard every single week, because we ask it every single week, and somehow I just hadn't really thought about it. I really love the Huntress story. I think that's very well told. I think that it's stories like this that kind of put us to our criticism or whatever to shame when we say, oh, that author didn't have much space to write their story. Too bad, so sad. You can tell a good story in a few pages. And I'm liking the intrigue of the mystery in Tech. Who is it that's covering up the thing? Oh, I know what it was. So before we started recording, I was like, something is pissing me off. And I don't remember what it was. And I thought it was a show I had seen that had nothing to do with this. But it actually isn't. So Nakano wants to stop the masks, blah, blah, blah. But he's inviting villains to work for him. It's like, listen, if you really care about justice, then you know Batman, he's a good guy. You may not agree with his methods, but you know what? Invite him in and talk to him and work out and compromise a way you can maybe have masks, maybe, work, I don't know, whatever. You know Batman's a good guy. But hey, you know what? Let's go shoot Batman and let's invite Hugo Strange and who's the other one? And the Scarecrow to be part of our team to save Gotham. Ah! That was making me angry. So, and I don't know if that's the storytelling that's making me angry or if it's, what's the author's name again? I'm having a brain aneurysm.
Tamaki?
Tamaki. I don't know. I don't know if that's like, I don't know. It's just, it's upsetting me. So I'm going to say 3.5 because Tamaki, no, what's the mayor's name?
Nakano.
Nakano, that's right. Nakano is making me angry. And I don't know if that's, like, intentional? I mean, probably. Or what?
I gotta ask. But
please do.
Yeah. Strange wasn't in Detective. He was in Harley Quinn, wasn't he?
Well, still, okay, fine. So it's not her fault, and he's not in this one. You're right. Good point. Okay, good point on that. So, no, maybe that's just in general. That's not Tamaki's fault then. So maybe, okay, so I'll go ahead and give this one a 4. But that's what's bothering me about the storyline in general. Like the whole future state, I almost called it Fire Force. That's a different story. The whole future state thing is bothering me because that's not how you get rid of crime. You don't ask criminals to head your programs and go shoot the people who want to help your citizens. That's bull hockey. So, okay, so that's not her fault. 4 out of longest rating ever. 4 out of 5.
To be fair, Strange doesn't wear a mask.
Neither does half the people they get shot at. But I guess those are the clowns, I guess. Harley doesn't wear a mask. She gets shot at. But Scarecrow wears a mask.
Yes, he definitely wears a mask. I am yeah, definitely a very good issue, both the main story as well as the backup. Actually, I love the Huntress story even more than the main book, the main story. But it's definitely a solid 4 Huntress crossbow bullets for me. So 4 out of 5.
Yeah, my love of that Huntress story is bumping this up. I was originally going to go with 3.5 because I thought it was above average. It's still setting up, and I'm much more of a payoff guy, so I tend to rate ends of arcs higher than I rate beginnings of arcs. At least that's my impression. I could be wrong. Intrepid listeners, please go through and listen to all 50 or so episodes I've been on and let me know if I'm wrong. I'm going to give this a 3.75. And that gives us a overall average of 3. Oh, wait. We don't have a regular. Okay, 3.92, so almost a 4. And the mode, of course, is 4 because we had 2 of those. Again, we definitely would recommend you pick up both Robin and Detective Comics. Now it's time for Greater Gotham. We have a bunch of stuff to go through today. Batman Black and White number 5. It's another anthology issue. I really want to highlight the fact that we have Lee Weeks, Jorge Jimenez, and Jamal Campbell all writing and drawing their own issues, own short stories, all just really fun little gems of stories with great art.
Yes, I did. Okay. I am typically a Karen Gillan fan, but I could not get through all those different panels. I'm sorry. That just threw me for a loop that I just could not get over. And I gave up. I watched Batman die one time too many, and I just gave up on it. What I did enjoy, though, however, was the fact that this was rich with artists actually doing the writing, and they did a hell of a job. And I give kudos to all of them. Jorge, Lee Weeks, and Jamal Campbell. They did a hell of a job on their stories, so I give them kudos for that.
We also have Harley Quinn number 2, written by Stephanie Phillips and illustrated by Riley Rossmo again. I found out, and I think I actually knew this, but I forgot it. Stephanie Phillips has a PhD, I think, in psychology, but I'm not sure. It might be history. But it's kind of funny that she's writing comics for Harley Quinn, who also has a PhD.
That actually makes the scene where she talks about having a PhD a little funnier, because you know that was truth what she was writing. It's like, and one way too expensive PhD in psychology. It was good. I mean, I really appreciate that it's connecting to Batman, and you're getting kind of the off-panel end of Harley's journey on panel, and I do appreciate that. And I like the friend she's made who's kind of having a change of heart and he wants to be a hero. I like that. There's characters I'm enjoying, and the story's not bad. And yeah.
What do you think about Hugo Strange?
I hate Hugo Strange. He's big and scary, but he's scary. And I think he's like, oh my gosh, like when they're holding down the guy who's like, I'm not a clown, I just had an altercation with my neighbor, and they like hold him down and give him the needle or whatever, and then they put it in his eyeball. It was so scary. I don't think that's normally where you give people shots, is the eyeball, unless you're giving them a lobotomy. But yeah, I think he's a good scary villain in my mind. I have a sensitive eyeball thing.
I also really love that it's connecting. I mean, it is so clear that Tynan and Tamaki and Phillips and Taylor and like all the Bat writers are really trying to work together. Oh, and Ridley, of course, with Second Son.
Oh yeah.
It's really tight. It really feels like a universe, and it's giving different flavors without feeling so disconnected. It's really good, and I really give James Tynion and Ben Abernathy a lot of credit. Ben Abernathy is the Bat Group editor right now.
Because even though Batman's only coming out like once a month, you really feel like you're just getting more and more of the story every single book you open because they're all at least connected, and so it's just really good at the world building of the pre-Future State Gotham, and I really appreciate that.
And then it'll be even better once Tech goes double shipping again.
No, DC, don't listen to Theo. That's a terrible idea. I also think it's kind of fun because Hugo Strange is a psychologist. So Harley versus Hugo seems like a pretty great matchup. And I also really appreciate that Stephanie Phillips is continuing what James Tynion did. I just love issue 105 of Batman, where she breaks down and says, yeah, I don't remember killing your parents, Clown Hunter, but I've done so many bad things. I've killed so many people. If you want to kill me, you would be right to. But if you don't, I will continue trying to save people and make up for the pain and death I've caused. And this is continuing with that. Too many writers, especially like Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner, tend to write Harley as, oh, she's so funny. It doesn't matter that she just kills people all the time. Stephanie Phillips manages to balance the fact that she's hilarious, but also that she is trying to become a better person and save people rather than destroy people. And I think that's a really impressive balancing act. And I'm worried that she'll fall off when Poison Ivy comes, but we'll see.
But I gotta ask, before we get off the Hugo Strange train, when did he start taking human growth hormones? Because I've always known him to be far shorter than what he appeared in this issue. He was a behemoth.
Yeah, he was like Killer Croc sized.
Yeah,
I don't know if with this artist you can take the physical proportions too much to literal. Like Harley's hair is like twice as big as it is in Batman. And that guy's chin, whereas I know some people with a little more fluff have giant chins like that, his tiny little face in the big chin thing is just, it's weird. I think you shouldn't take the art too seriously.
Yeah, I agree. It's going for effect and not for...
Yeah.
You shouldn't try and measure it to see how tall people are compared to each other. Because Nakano is not supposed to be like 5 feet tall. Because Hugo Strange is clearly like twice as tall as he is. And that's just hilarious.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. We have Nightwing number 79. And I will let my co-hosts enthuse over that a bit.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, I would say, whereas you could have passed off Barbara as being a very good friend in the last issue, she's definitely entering a little more flirty territory now. Which is fine, because Teen Titans doesn't exist, and Starfire isn't a romantic interest, and it's fine. It's fine. I really love that Dick is trying to figure out what to do with his money, even though he should probably read some books on healthy ways to help people and not just give them things. Because
Dick, learn about what happens to lottery winners, buddy.
Yeah. Like he's literally feeding people for a day instead of teaching them how to make pizza. Can you say that? Or at least, whatever. Teach a man to fish, eat a man to fish, whatever that's.
But you should definitely teach people how to make pizza because it's the best food.
Yes.
Although I will say, that was a weird pizza holding. Like, they were, like, putting their hands on the top of the pizza to eat it. It was strange.
It was. And the villain, who gets very, very little screen time, is, a little scary with his heart-sucking gun thing. So that was sad that the homeless couple from the beginning, or the pair, the father-son, that now the little kid's probably an orphan, which is super sad. But it's just interesting seeing Nightwing's journey, and because, again, so little happens in this other than Dick's unhealthy homeless people helping, is just his emotional journey. And again, I like characters. I like banter. So this was an interesting read, and I enjoyed it very much.
I definitely enjoyed that issue. I don't know if I truly picked up. Well, no, I truly didn't pick up on the whole flirtatious thing out, but I did enjoy the camaraderie between Dick and Babs. I mean, that one scene where he gets his wallet picked, and the next thing you know, the whole family knows because there's a group chat, and just knowing that the Bat family has a group chat, maybe it's Discord or Slack or whatever, but it's still awesome, and it's
Bat Chat
or Bat Chat, and it's
Bat
even
Chat.
awesomer knowing that Cass has a thing for emoji.
That was cute.
But if they are going to, if Tom Taylor, and yes, Tom Taylor is going to eventually take over the DC universe, and I am A-okay with that. If he is moving in the direction of shipping these two again, he is doing it very quietly. And I will say almost in a normal fashion, where they are developing and solidifying their friendship first. Because again, I didn't see as much of flirtation going on than I did see true friendship between two that have a long history with each other, and I'm okay with that.
I agree for the most part, but she does kind of do a little facey touchy thing when she puts his mask on, which that I will admit that most of it was friendship, but that one is like that's a little more. I mean, she's doing a lingering thing there.
And again, we know if the end game in this is future state, we know that at some point these two are going to be back together again. And again, I'm okay with that. They are the ship of all ships. And they are the ships of all ships because Stella says so. And we know that, again, if future state is the end point, we're going to get there. But I enjoy how Taylor is doing it instead of just jumping in and going feet first with it all, and actually letting the relationship develop as a friendship first.
So,
you want to say anything?
Yeah, are you going to admit that Tom Taylor did a second good issue of Nightwing?
So,
here it comes.
I think as a whole, this was a very enjoyable issue. My criticism of Tom Taylor, aside from his love for killing off characters, which people say he doesn't really do it, but I think that he's chosen too many projects at this point where he does it.
But it's AU.
I know. But that doesn't happen here, so it's not a criticism of this issue. Although he does have that villain who goes around ripping hearts out. It's definitely there. He does a couple things here that kind of annoy me in a very typically Taylor way. The first one is the group chat, and it's not that the group chat is bad. It's that it's the kind of thing that a fanfic writer would put in, and it doesn't... It's a really fun detail, but it takes a lot of page time, and it doesn't advance the story. And I think that's fine. There are a lot of examples you can see of this kind of detail that's just there for fan service or fun. But it makes the writing a bit looser or baggier. The second thing that I is more serious. The group text thing is really just, I think it's not as tight writing as I'd like. But it's fine. I'd say this is definitely the equal of Ben Percy's run on Nightwing for sure. A lot of people didn't like that run. I really liked that run. So I'm not dissing Taylor when I say that I think it's the equal of Ben Percy. That's actually the last Nightwing run I liked. Even though I enjoyed some of Dan Jurgens' run, it wasn't Jurgens' fault, but he was stuck with Rick, and there's never... That's just a crummy status quo, so... I really don't like it when comic writers try and say, well, Batman could do so much better if he just gave money to people instead of beating up criminals. I don't think people who say that seriously should be writing Batman comics. It is an interesting discussion to have, but if you really think that, you don't think Batman is interesting. You don't think Batman is a good character, and you shouldn't be writing Batman. Now, Tom Taylor did say on Twitter that he's not making that argument seriously. He says there's more context. It's about Barbara and Dick, who both know Bruce Wayne better. That may be the case, but he didn't put that context in the comic. He didn't explain... He didn't have anyone giving Bruce's side of the story. And I think that is really frustrating. And I'm partly frustrated because we just had 12 issues of this nonsense by Warren Ellis in The Batman's Grave, which was a very unenjoyable comic. Now, this is an enjoyable comic, so this isn't a hit that's going to seriously hurt the comic, but it is something that I find really annoying. So
you're not willing to give him the benefit of a doubt? That
I did give him the benefit of that. When he said that on Twitter, I went back and reread the issue. And there wasn't the context that changed it.
I don't think from the way I read it and reading it again right now, I don't see him saying that Bruce Wayne could do more than Batman. I just think he's saying he could have done more as Bruce Wayne. He's not taking full advantage of being Bruce Wayne. There was something we read where Bruce was never became Batman or something, but he was still Bruce Wayne and using his power as Bruce Wayne to do stuff. I forget what that was.
Are we talking about the Batman Who Laughs miniseries where there are all those Bruce Waynes that the Batman Who Laughs kills?
I don't think so. It was something more focused on just one alternative, I think. But
I don't know why I was thinking about
was that the Hush Batman thing?
No,
I don't remember.
I was thinking. I don't know why my head went to the Tom King issue when Booster.
The gift.
No, no, that was
terrible.
That's a butt wipe, Bruce Wayne. That's a different. No, he's a horrible person. But I don't know. I didn't read that like that. I think you're also a little tainted by your dislike for him. So
I will freely admit that I come into any Tom Taylor issue a bit cranky.
So I didn't read it as a slight on Batman, but more as something that we even as fans on the cast have been saying, which is for the last few writers really haven't shown Bruce Wayne doing anything. He's been a dud as Bruce Wayne, at least since I've started reading, in 2018, whatever it was. So 16, 17, I don't know, whatever.
I think you started in 17.
I think it's 17 or 18. But he really, he hasn't done anything. So I just feel like he was just saying Bruce Wayne could have done more. I don't know. I didn't read it as he shouldn't be Batman, but just more as Bruce Wayne could have been a better man. That's all.
I agree. Yeah. And I agree with that idea as well. Yes, Batman can always do more. But just think of the additional stuff that Bruce Wayne can accomplish in addition to what Batman does.
Mm-hmm.
My problem with that is that Bruce Wayne does do stuff in comics. He's constantly setting up scholarships and charities and individual helping people. I mean, Tynan loves doing that kind of thing.
Yes, but I would just argue that recently, definitely in King's Run, there was not much of that, if any.
I would agree with that. I think that there has been an overemphasis on Batman that I would argue largely stems from the focus on sort of action through. I, of course, will blame Scott Snyder, but it was of course more than just him. But there's definitely been an overemphasis on Batman versus Bruce Wayne. But I think that Tamaki especially is really giving us a lot of Bruce outside of the cowl.
Definitely.
Of course.
And that's been wonderful.
Totally agree. And I love it.
All right. So, again, this is an enjoyable comic, but I'm just not quite as enthused as my fellow co-hosts. And I will admit, it's because I do come in a little cranky. The art is fantastic. There is no criticism other than, why are they holding the pizza like hot dogs? That's real weird. All right.
Don't.
Moving on to Catwoman number 30. This was, again, actually was an improvement because we had a moment where Catwoman really felt the loss of her ability to collaborate with Batman. Mm-hmm. And I think that brought the emotions back from last issue, which was it was still a really good issue, but it felt a little hollow. There wasn't that same emotional connection I like to have with Selina, and this one brought it back. And it was also, of course, just a really solid crime story, as a good Catwoman comic should be. And very sexy, too.
Oh my goodness, full nudity in this one. Oh my goodness, Selina. Don't have artists in your room when you're getting changed. My goodness. So I tell you what, like, this was great. Everything Ian said was great. It was fine. I've been meaning to get a haircut. And so when I was reading this one, I was like, I stopped, especially when she's like interrogating Nigma. And I was like, I need that hair. So I stopped to do some hair looking for pictures online. And then I'm going to go get my haircut tomorrow because of this comic.
I'm going to take that panel to the beauty salon.
Probably not the panel because it's already embarrassing to have to bring your pictures. And then to say, look, to see this comic where they can draw hair however they want and it's not in any way realistic, I want it that way. But yeah, I did enjoy it very much. I do still have a problem with Kingpin Selina having children as her minions. But whatever. I get it. I get it with her history and all that. I'm not loving the villain, but he's scary and he's not like lame or anything. He's just, I don't know, icky.
Well, for me, I am happy that they're turning their focus back to Father Valley, excuse me, because I don't want to get killed because I mean he's supposed to be the main villain anyway. So, I know with the upcoming issues and the annual, there's definitely going to be a lot of focus on him. So I am pleased that they are turning their focus back to him as being the primary pursuer of Selina. So we'll see as we get to the annual and the follow-up issue where all of this goes with Father Valley. I think he has the ability to be quite an interesting character, especially considering what the solicits are saying about him.
I hope this run goes a long time because I'm loving it.
Oh, I'm about to say Tom Taylor. Haha. Ron V has made me a true believer in Selina Kyle again.
It was a rough 2 years until he got there, though.
And I love Joelle Jones, especially as an artist, but the story she told when she began the book, and again, I'm pretty sure that a lot of it was influenced by editorial, but it was not good. Whoever came up with the ideal of Arena Creel, God bless you.
That bless your heart.
Yeah. Let's not say God. Let's just say bless your heart. Poor little tinks, whatever.
All right. We get to Batman Fortnite 0 Point, number 1 by Christos Gage and Scott Eaton, I think it is. Or Christian Duch? One of those guys. Batman... This is apparently supposed to be in continuity. It's like Batman getting sucked into another dimension. It's selling like hotcakes. I mean, Theo, you had a lot of really interesting information about how it's doing in stores.
It didn't seem like continuity because Gordon's commissioner.
That's a good point.
So if it's continuity, it's some early continuity, or it's some beyond future state with all of the futuristic buildings torn down and rebuilt as normal Gotham again. No, I can't see it being continuity, but hey, I'm just a reader. But yeah, this was so apparently comic shops were taken by surprise with this book, and of course they blame DC for poor marketing, which I can easily see happening, considering what we've gotten from them so many times, aka the wedding, blah blah blah. But they first solicited this book, and apparently comic shops under ordered on what they wanted for their shops, and then as it got closer to release, Fortnite, the makers of Fortnite, started promoting the book as well, and interest in the book just skyrocketed, and it left comic shops unable to meet the demand, primarily because of how DC initially marketed the book to them. So for those who don't know and who's not following, each issue comes with a code that can be redeemed in the game for an in-game item. And for those who redeem all 6 codes, they'll get a special Batman armor. So for 6 codes, you basically get 7 items. But demand is high for this first issue because a lot of shops don't have it. So unless you have a paid subscription to DC Universe Infinite, the online comic service, or you were able to look into a comic shop that did have copies of the first issue, your best bet is going to be eBay, where the book is selling upwards of $25 right now. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, second issues and beyond are probably more easier to come by. But again, for those who are looking to get all of the items, including that special Batman armor for redeeming all 6 codes, if you can't find that first code, you're going to be in some trouble. Got to do better, DC.
But that being said, it was actually a fun book. I mean, it was a little silly. There's a giant, ripping the universe again. And people are just hopping through it for funsies. And Batman's like, oh, go too, blah, blah. And then everyone has amnesia, which is just, the best trope ever. And then Catwoman shows up and she also has amnesia. And they start fighting together like a well-oiled machine because they might have worked together in the past. And they look at each other so lovingly and then fade to purple. And
it was also good. It was also good to get a story where there's dialogue without dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
No one's able to talk, but you have an idea of what Bruce is thinking, but still you're able to get an understanding of what the story's doing without the character saying an actual word.
I thought it was a decent issue. I don't care about Fortnite, so I just lost all of our Fortnite listeners. But I think this is a good idea if DC could figure out how to capitalize on it properly. Let the shops know to order lots and not have them disbelieve them because of stupid stuff like the wedding.
If you're looking for a code, contact Ian.
I mean, I could probably get one person a code, but I'm not going to. Last bit of Greater Gotham is not something that any of us have read or recommend,
nope.
But we are so happy that Batman vs. Ra's al Ghul is finally done. It is finally over, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. So don't read that unless you really liked Batman Odyssey. All yes.
Right. I gave it a fighting chance. I read the first issue. I might have read the second issue. I probably blacked out from my memory if I did. And then I skimmed the 6th issue, and I can say, don't read it.
And unfortunately, because you did that, Steph, that makes me the weakest link. Goodbye.
Oh.
All right. So let's move to our favorite of the week. Out of all the books in Greater Gotham and the main 2, what were your favorites? You can pick 2.
I can pick 2. I am...
I'm going to go on record and say I think both my co-hosts are going to pick Robin and Nightwing. So there you go.
Oh, that's right. I was just thinking Greater Gotham. Yeah, absolutely. Robin, and I don't know. I really did like Tech. There's nothing wrong with our Greater Gotham books that we read, but I just really enjoyed our two main books today.
I don't want to have to pick because they had so many good books.
There are a lot. This was a good week.
This was definitely a good week. I am going to go with Tech first, simply because of the Huntress backup. That puts that one over the top for me. And the second, let me see. I need to play rock paper scissors.
Are you playing rock paper scissors with yourself?
Yeah, and I have three. I'm stuck between three books. I'm stuck between Robin, Nightwing, and ironically, Black and White. Like I said, Black and White really surprised me because of how well the artists did at scripting their own stories, and I was pleasantly surprised by that. But I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna go and wing it and say Tech and Nightwing, simply because of Tom Taylor, and I want to piss Ian off.
Well, I'm going to be a little odd, and I'm going to say the books that surprised me most with their quality this week were Black and White and Harley Quinn. I've been really kind of dreading this Harley Quinn because I don't like Harley and Ivy, because I view Ivy as just as bad as Joker in terms of just being a mass killer. I understand she's supposed to have more sympathetic motivations, but I don't find sympathetic motivations for wiping out humankind a good thing. But Harley Quinn, there was a morality and an energy. She balanced it so well. I was really impressed. And Riley Rossmo art, it works. Black and White, I love Lee Weeks, but I was surprised at how good the bulk of the stories were. I did really like Catwoman and Tech and Robin, and I enjoyed Nightwing. But those are the ones that surprised me the most. So that's what I'm going to go with. Since we promised, we're going to get to our listener feedback from last episode.
Sorry to interrupt, Master Booth. Ringing your phone now. This needs my attention.
Caesar Diaz on YouTube commented and said, "Hello guys, great to hear you again. I know that the Snyder Cut is a closed case, but I want to let you know that I love this movie. I have seen it 4 times and I highly recommend it to all. I was very surprised with your opinions. I saw good reviews and comments everywhere, but I think it is an algorithm thing. It's great to hear different opinions, and you guys made me consider several things. Snyderverse or not, I'm still afraid about the future of the DC movies. The price increase is something that affects us all. I live outside the US, and believe me, it is much more expensive. It's hard to say that I'm not going to buy comics anymore because it's the industry that I love and should support it, but man, it's frustrating when corporations see us as numbers and not as humans or fans." And finally, I love Tom King's work. He definitely loves to play with our feelings. Hee hee. Does Selina really deserve Bruce? The structure of the story is absolutely great. Phantasm is a character that brings me back to many childhood memories, and it is interesting that Tom has involved her in the series. Steph, Theo, and Ian, and the entire TBU team, thank you for doing this. P.S. You were right. Joker #1 is awesome, and I'm waiting for the #2 and your review about Batman 107. I also started the new Alien series. Excellent art and promising story. Is that like the Ridley? The
Alien? Marvel's gotten the license to the Alien movie series since it's doing comics.
I shan't be reading that one.
I think that's a great comment, Caesar. I think you've pointed out a lot of good points, and I definitely appreciate you writing in.
On Discord, Sean says, "I wanted to thank you, Theo and Steph, for another great show last week." Oh, apparently you didn't thank you, Ian.
Well, this is a DM to me, so.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. I have been reading the newest graphic novels as I pick them up from my local library system. I have to say that I am not digging all of the beatdowns on Bruce in the city of Gotham. Oh, it's rough. Haven't we gone through this scenario a few times now in the last short period? Their dark designs was beautifully illustrated, but I am getting frustrated with the path of the franchise. Maybe we will go through another reset to bring everything back to an even keel. I have been a Batman fan since the 70s and have had periods that I have absolutely hated, but I stayed with it. I hope that you are all enjoying this beautiful spring weather. I read The Joker by Brian Azzarello yesterday. It was dark and evil, but it was well written. The Joker War Saga was exactly what you and the team said it would be. Beautiful illustrations and colors. Like you, I feel a little oversaturation with Joker, but having you talk about the new Joker story drew my interest. So I read those during waiting for this new series to run its course and wind up in my library. LLAP. What is LLAP?
Live long and prosper.
Oh, ha! Nanu.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Sean, for writing in. That's a very encouraging comment, and it does have a lot of good perspective into the life of a comic fan as we try and navigate these dark books and their high price points. We'll have to see. I mean, Batman's never going to be a terribly light franchise, at least not unless there's a complete reboot and they decide to go with Batman 66 as the template. Which I don't think is going to happen.
No.
I think he's got a long and hard road to hoe. But I think that will be... I think he'll have a good crop.
Yes, I love that all the Batman authors are on the same page. Like, that is... As someone who's never really experienced that other than the nightmare that was... Nightmares? No. Nightmares wasn't the nightmare, but that was the just crap fest during Tom King's run.
I mean, the last time that I can remember having this sort of uniformity with all of the TBU books was maybe during Morrison's run, but most definitely during the days of I just brain fart.
Dixon, Monk, and Grant.
Yes, as you go through Cataclysm and No Man's Land and Aftershock and all of those great arcs. I mean, this is the closest that they've been in a very long time. You know, because Tom King, of course, everything was just all over the place with regards to the Bat books, and I mean, Snyder had his world, and you had others that tried to feed off of it, but I don't think it was done very well, you know, and maybe that's because I wasn't a fan of Snyder's run, but, you know, you got to give Ben Abernathy credit for the job he's doing as group editor. And I remember when they had the different panels at DC Fandom, you really saw that, you know, as he was talking with each of the different writers as they started to discuss where the books were going, you could clearly see that he was getting a clear hand on where the titles were going to be going, and I'm so happy to see things are where they are, and they're where they are without Cecil Castellucci. So that's even better.
Let's all say a quick yes and amen.
Just, you know, give me my Batgirl book, which I am fully expecting to hear announced after the Urban's Legend issue, and I will be in Seven Heaven.
All right, so I want to thank all of our listeners and patrons. If you're watching on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe and give us a like. If you're listening on a podcast, feel free to review us, leave us a comment on YouTube or on the website, send us a tweet at TBU_comics. We've actually already done all that stuff in the bumper, but I want to remind you again, give us feedback. We love it. And we do read it, as we just proved. I want to also really give a lot of appreciation to our patrons and the people who have contributed. We have a wall on the website with a bunch of affiliate links if you want to purchase things through Amazon and other nerdy-related stores. But the Bat fans who contribute regularly to keep the servers open, we definitely want to take extra time to thank, and that's Gerald Green, Joshua Lappenbertoni, Rob O, Real No Deuces, Tim Garassi, Robert Lewis, Ian Miller, Theodis Wright, Stephanie Mounts, Donovan Morgan Grant, Stanton's Grave, Donald Townsend, Ed Grouse, Brendan Roberts, Hannah Garr, Captain America, Mary Garrett, Austin Davis, Johnny McCloskey, and Cesar Diaz. Thank you all for helping us to keep the podcast going. It is a delight, not just to talk to my comic loving co-hosts who are just so great, but also to know that you are listening and disagreeing and sending your different opinions and agreeing and being helped. That's what we do the podcast for, so thank you all. In the meantime, I've been Ian.
This is Steph.
And this is Theo.
Thank you for listening to the Batman Universe Comic Podcast. We'll talk to you again next month.
Ian.
Sorry, there was a wasp in my room. Hold on a sec.
There still is a wasp. Kill it! Kill it with fire!
Okay, I'm back. The demon wasp.